From the blistering deserts of North Africa to the dense hedgerows of Normandy and the unforgiving jungles of Burma, British forces fielded one of the most resilient arsenals of World War II. Built on a foundation of Victorian reliability and refined through the desperate innovations of total war, these were the tools that held the line when Britain stood alone. Today, we are uncovering the complete British combat weapons registry, 1939 to 1945. Infantry small arms, rifles and carbines. Rifle short magazine Lee-Enfield, SMLE No. 1 Mark III, the SMLE. The SMLE is the legendary bolt-action workhorse that carried the British Empire through 2 world wars. Look for its blunt nose-cap muzzle and the silky smooth bolt handle that sits just above the trigger. It was a master-crafted tool of speed, allowing trained Tommies to perform the mad minute of rapid fire that often convinced enemies they were facing machine guns. Rifle No. 4 Mark I, the No. 4. The No. 4 was the modernized standard-issue rifle of the British Tommy from 1942 onward. It is distinguished by its protruding barrel and the simplified peep sight on the back of the receiver. This rifle was built for the rigors of the European theater, offering faster target acquisition and better accuracy than its predecessor in the heat of a chaotic firefight. Rifle No. 5 Mark I, Jungle Carbine. The No. 5 Mark I is better known as the Jungle Carbine, a lightened and shortened variant of the standard Enfield. You'll recognize it by the large conical flash hider on the muzzle and the thick rubber butt pad designed to absorb its increased kick. It was purpose-built for the brutal close-quarters visibility of the Burma campaign, though soldiers often complained about its wandering zero and punishing recoil. Moving from long-range precision to the rapid-fire desperation of close-quarters combat, we have the submachine guns. Submachine guns. Lanchester Mark I, the naval SMG. The Lanchester Mark I was a high-quality, over-engineered submachine gun issued primarily to the Royal Navy. It features a heavy brass magazine well and a full wooden stock that gives it the appearance of a shortened rifle. It was a rugged but expensive weapon, used for airfield defense and shipboard security when every automatic barrel was vital for survival. Sten Machine Carbine, the plumber's nightmare. The Sten is the brutally simple, low-cost submachine gun that kept the British Army in the fight. It is recognizable by its crude, tubular metal receiver and the iconic 32-round magazine that feeds directly from the left side. It was a disposable weapon that could be built in bicycle shops, making it the perfect tool to be dropped by the thousands to resistance fighters across occupied Europe. Stepping up from individual fire to the sustained suppressive power of the infantry section, we meet the machine guns. Machine guns. Bren light machine gun. The Bren. The Bren is arguably the finest light machine gun of the war, providing the primary suppressive fire for every British section. It's instantly identifiable by its top-mounted 30-round curved magazine and its distinctive wooden carry handle. This weapon was a tactical masterpiece, legendary for its surgical precision and absolute reliability in the mud of the front lines. Vickers .303 machine gun, the Vickers. The Vickers is a relentless heavy machine gun that served as a battalion-level defensive anchor. You'll recognize its corrugated water cooling jacket and the massive tripod mount designed for long-range suppressive fire.
It was a relentless defensive tool, capable of firing for hours without ceasing, effectively denying large sectors of ground to enemy formations. Besa machine gun, 7.92 mm, the tank MG. The Besa was the standard-issue machine gun for British armored vehicles, providing coaxial and hull-mounted fire. This air-cooled design is unique for utilizing the German 7.92 mm cartridge rather than the standard British ammunition. It was a reliable belt-fed tool, though its unique caliber required a completely separate supply chain for the armored divisions. When the fighting got personal and space was at a premium, the troops reached for their handguns.
Handguns. Enfield No. 2 Mark I. The Enfield Revolver. The Enfield No. 2 was the standard-issue sidearm predominantly carried by NCOs and armored crews. Look for the top break action and the spurless hammer on the Mark I Star variant, designed to prevent snagging inside cramped tanks. It was a soldier-proof tool, prized for its reliability and its ability to be reloaded quickly during a close-range scramble. Webley Mark IV. The Webley. The Webley Mark IV is a rugged, soldier-proof revolver produced to supplement the Enfield during the peak of the war. It is distinguished by its heavy, squared-off frame and the powerful top-break extraction mechanism that kicks out empty shells. It was a dependable, hard-hitting sidearm that saw service on every front, proving its worth as a secondary tool when the primary weapon failed. Shifting from small arms to the heavy-duty demolition of infantry support, we have the mortars and anti-tank weapons. Infantry support and anti-tank. Mortars. Ordnance SBML 2-inch mortar. The 2-inch. The 2-inch mortar was a highly portable squad-level support weapon used for launching high explosives and smoke. It is a simple, lightweight tube, often fired without a bipod for rapid, handheld adjustments. This weapon was a game-changer for the infantry, allowing a single soldier to suppress enemy machine guns or screen a retreat in seconds. Ordnance ML 3-inch mortar, the 3-inch. The 3-inch mortar was the primary battalion-level indirect fire weapon. Look for the heavy circular base plate and the thick tube designed to handle high-pressure launches. It provided devastating suppressive fire for infantry advances, capable of saturating enemy positions with a constant rain of high-explosive shells. Anti-tank weapons. Projector. Infantry Anti-Tank PIAT. The PIAT was a man-portable anti-tank launcher that relied on a massive spring-loaded spigot instead of a rocket motor. You'll recognize its heavy tubular shroud and the large shaped charge projectile that sat in the front tray. While it was difficult to cock, it lacked a propellant flash or smoke trail, allowing the gunner to remain hidden after firing. Boys Anti-Tank Rifle. Elephant Gun. The Boys' anti-tank rifle was a heavy bolt-action beast used early in the war to penetrate light armor. It is recognizable by its massive barrel and the T-shaped muzzle brake designed to fight the recoil. While it was effective against early panzers, soldiers were notorious for disliking its heavy kick and quickly discarded it as German tank armor grew thicker. When the infantry needed the big guns to break the stalemate, they called for the field artillery. Field artillery. Ordnance QF 25-pounder, the 25 PDR. The 25-pounder was the undisputed backbone of the Royal Artillery and Britain's most important weapon of the war. It is instantly identifiable by the large circular firing platform that allowed the crew to traverse the gun a full 360 degrees.
This was a masterclass in versatility, providing lethal support through both direct fire against tanks and indirect barrages across the horizon. From the thunder of artillery to the iron might of the front lines, we meet the infantry tank family. Armored fighting vehicles. Infantry tank lineage. Heavy armor. Infantry tank Mark II, A-12, the Matilda II. The Matilda II was the legendary Queen of the Desert, a slow-moving fortress that dominated Italian forces in 1940. It features thick side skirts covering its tracks and a heavy cast turret housing a 2-pounder gun. Early in the war, its armor was practically immune to most enemy anti-tank guns, allowing it to crush enemy positions with near impunity.
Infantry tank Mk3, Valentine. The Valentine was one of the most reliable and widely produced British tanks of the entire conflict. You'll recognize its low profile and the exceptionally reliable engine that kept it running when other tanks broke down. It was a favorite among crews for its mechanical stability, serving everywhere from the sands of North Africa to the frozen plains of the Eastern Front. Infantry tank Mk4, A-22, Churchill. The Churchill was a massive, heavy infantry tank designed for breakthrough operations and impossible terrain. It is instantly identifiable by its long hull and tracks that run entirely around the perimeter of the vehicle. This tank was famous for its ability to climb near impossible slopes, providing heavy support where no other armored vehicle could follow. Sacrificing heavy armor for lightning-fast maneuverability, we have the cruiser tank lineage.
Cruiser tank lineage, mobility. Cruiser tank Mark VI, A-15, Crusader. The Crusader was the primary British racer during the North African campaign. It features a very low silhouette and sloped turret armor, often seen with sunshield frames to make it look like a truck from the air. While it was prized for its speed, it was frequently hampered by thin armor and mechanical unreliability in the brutal desert heat. Cruiser tank Mark VIII, A-27M, Cromwell. The Cromwell was the mainstay of British armored divisions during the Normandy breakout. Look for its boxy, riveted construction and the powerful Rolls-Royce Meteor engine that made it one of the fastest tanks of the war. It was a reliable, high-speed hunter, using its incredible mobility to outmaneuver German defenders across the European plains. Cruiser tank Mark VII, A-34, Comet. The Comet was a late-war masterclass in design, combining Cromwell speed with heavy firepower. It features a larger, sloped turret and wider tracks than its predecessor to support the high-velocity 77mm gun. It finally gave British crews a platform that could knock out German heavy tanks head-on without sacrificing the speed needed for a rapid advance. Tank destroyers and conversions. Sherman Firefly, Firefly. The Sherman Firefly was the British conversion that gave Allied divisions a fighting chance against German Tiger tanks. It is recognizable by the exceptionally long 17-pounder gun barrel and the counterweight box welded to the rear of the turret. This was one of the few Allied tanks capable of defeating German heavy armor at long range, punching through the thickest steel from a distance. 17 PDR SP Achilles, Achilles. The Achilles was a British re-arming of the U.S. M10 tank destroyer with the legendary 17-pounder gun. It is distinguished from the standard M10 by its much longer barrel and a specialized muzzle brake. It provided British divisions with a dedicated tank hunter that could knock out the heaviest panzers while maintaining the mobility of a tracked chassis. To hold the lifeblood of the Empire across the oceans, we look to the heavy metal of the Royal Navy. Naval power. King George V class battleship. The Home Fleet Heavy. The King George V class was the armored muscle of the Royal Navy's battle line.
You'll recognize its massive quad turrets housing 14-inch guns and its imposing upright bridge structure. It was the ultimate ocean-going fortress, built to hunt down and destroy the pride of the German Kriegsmarine in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic. Illustrious-class aircraft carrier, the Armored Deck. The Illustrious class was the floating airfield that revolutionized carrier warfare with its armored flight deck. It is distinguished by its enclosed hangar and the heavy plating that allowed it to survive direct hits from enemy bombers. It brought British air power to the deepest parts of the ocean, protecting the convoys that were the lifeblood of the British war effort. Finally, we look to the skies where the icons of British defiance secured the victory. Air power. Supermarine Spitfire, the Spit. The Spitfire is the iconic interceptor that became the symbol of British defiance. It is famous for its beautiful elliptical wing design and the distinctive roar of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. This was the primary tool that secured the skies during the Battle of Britain, proving itself as one of the most agile and lethal fighters of the war.
Hawker Hurricane. The Hurricane was the rugged workhorse of fighter command that did the heavy lifting during 1940. It is distinguished by its fabric-covered rear fuselage and a wider, sturdier stance than the Spitfire. While it lacked the glamour of its cousin, it accounted for the majority of German kills during the Battle of Britain, proving it was a durable and lethal combat platform. Avro Lancaster. The Lancaster was the primary heavy bomber responsible for the strategic bombing of Germany. You'll recognize its massive twin-tail fins and an enormous internal bomb bay capable of carrying the Grand Slam bomb. It was the backbone of Bomber Command, carrying the war directly into the heart of the Reich with an unmatched payload capacity. By 1945, the British military had evolved into a high-tech, industrialized force that spanned the globe. From the precision of the Bren Gun to the overwhelming firepower of the 17-pounder and the strategic reach of the Lancaster, these weapons were the instruments of victory. While the war would eventually shift toward the superpowers, the British arsenal of WWII remains a testament to engineering under fire. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for our next deep dive into military history.